Hello, it's Friday again. I'm Maurice Barratt, and I've got another food for thought. I've been thinking this week that often when we face difficulties, we try and find a solution. Obviously, that's what all humans do when we have a problem, we find a solution. But often we leave God out of it. Or we have a solution and we ask God to back it up. That's why we miss the miracles of God. We don't see God moving in miraculous ways in our circumstances because we've got a plan B. If God doesn't answer our prayer, if God doesn't back our solution, then we've got another plan. But faith is having no plan B, trusting God whatever, death or glory. Why do we not wait? Why do we instigate our own plans? Well, it's a really hard thing to trust God. It's much harder than people think. We talk faith. Most believers talk faith, but they can't operate in faith and won't wait for deliverance. That's despite what we say. I know we say we trust God, but we don't really because we solve our own problems. You know, Moses and the children of Israel were a great example of waiting on God and watching God work, seeing what God will do in the circumstances. I'm sure you know the story. After they were redeemed from Egypt, Pharaoh tried to get them back. The mountains were on either side. The sea was in front of them, and the whole Egyptian army was behind them, ready to capture them and take them back into slavery and hard bondage. Let me read it. Exodus 14 verse 3. This is what God said to Moses. He already told him what would happen and why. And this is interesting. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. And God said, I will harden Pharaoh's heart that he shall follow after them, and I will be honoured upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. God wants to get the glory. He wants to know that he is the Lord of your life, not that some circumstances that you can solve and you do solve. Well, the key to bad circumstances is that God's instigated your bad circumstances to get the glory, if only we'll let him. Let me continue reading. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. This is what we do, we cry unto the Lord when we have bad circumstances. And they said unto Moses, because there are no graves in Egypt, you've taken us away to die in the wilderness. Why have you dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Why have you brought us, Moses, to die in the wilderness? They had no faith. Is not this the word we tell you in Egypt, saying, let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? God's people who were redeemed wanted to serve the Egyptians. Can you believe it? Of course I can. That's most Christians. They're redeemed from the world, but they don't want to leave it. They want to still serve the God of this world. They don't realise it, but their criteria for living is the same as the world's. They don't want to live as pilgrims and aliens. They want to be part of this world system. They want its status and its finance and its recognition and its titles. And verse 13 of the same chapter, Moses said to the people, fear not. Don't fear. Of course, it's natural to fear, but Moses said, don't do what's natural. Don't fear the circumstances. Stand still. Wait. See the salvation of the Lord. That's where Christians have the problem. They won't wait and watch God work. They want to work, which we will show you this day. For the Egyptians whom you've seen today, you'll see them again no more forever. We try our solutions and ask God to back them up because we fear the circumstances. And we don't fear them for nothing. They're often really terrible. But that's what Moses told them. Don't run. Don't fan fight, just stand still. That's the hardest thing to do, nothing, when you've got adverse circumstances. You know, if the battle's the Lord's, then why do we fight? If the battle really is the Lord's, why do we involve ourselves in the battle? You know, Joshua did the same. 2 Chronicles 20 verse 17. I've no time to go into the context. You shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. Watch God work. O Judah and Jerusalem, fear not. There's the words again. Don't fear the circumstances. Don't be dismayed, for tomorrow you shall go against them, for the Lord will be with you. Same thing in the New Testament, the disciples in the boat. They were in a storm and they were seasoned fishermen, but they were terrified. They thought they'd die. Jesus was asleep. He wasn't worried. He wasn't going to do anything about the storm. He trusted God. Trusting God is to leave God to work. The disciples should have followed the example of Jesus and waited for deliverance through the storm. Well, they panicked and they asked Jesus for an answer, and Jesus answered. And often, you know, we cry out to God in our circumstances, and God will answer, but He's saying, I wanted to do a bigger miracle. I wanted you to wait and see the salvation of the Lord so I get the glory. Well, Jesus calmed the storm, but they missed the principle. They should have stood still and seen that the storm had no power over them, like it didn't have Jesus. He was asleep. And Mark 4:40, Jesus told them off and He said, how is it that you have no faith? Why are you so fearful? Another example, Paul on his way to Rome. They were in a terrible storm. They were going to get shipwrecked. But he wasn't praying for the storm to subside. All the sailors were praying to their gods for the storm to subside. He knew the storm had no power over him because he had the promise of God. He'd be in Rome to defend himself, so he didn't fear the storm. He was waiting for deliverance God's way. Acts 27 verse 21. But after long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, you should have hearkened to me, and not loosed from Crete, and to have gained the harm and loss. And now I exhort you, be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night, the angel of the Lord. See, he was waiting on God, and the angel came and told him the answer. Whose I am and whose I serve, saying, here's the words again, fear not, Paul, you must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, don't worry. I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. They had a miraculous deliverance and were shipwrecked on the island of Malta, Melita as the Bible calls it. Well, the time's gone. Hope I've encouraged you to wait on God when you have adverse circumstances. Don't panic. Don't try and find your own solutions. See God work. Watch, wait, see God work. It's very hard to do nothing, I know, but I'm encouraging you. Well, time's gone. Have a wonderful day. Stand still in the trials. Watch God work and keep thinking.